They told me I needed to search, to chase, to swipe left and right. They said I had to put myself out there, to compromise, to play the games of this world. But my heart knew there had to be another way. Instead of chasing shadows, I turned to the one who already knew my future, the one who writes every love story before we are even born. And that is when I discovered something that changed everything. The secret prayer. The prayer that brought me my spouse. Because marriage in Islam is not luck. It is not about algorithms, nor about being in the right place at the right time. It is not even about who you think you deserve. Marriage is Qadr, the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you truly understand that, your entire perspective shifts. Imagine this. Before you even opened your eyes in this world, before your parents held you as a newborn, Allah had already written the name of your spouse. Every delay, every heartbreak, every unanswered proposal, all of it was part of a greater script authored by the Lord of the worlds. And that is why today I want to share with you not just a story, not just my journey, but a timeless secret, a key hidden in plain sight within our deen. A prayer so simple, yet so powerful, that it has unlocked countless destinies, including mine.
The importance of marriage in Islam. Marriage in Islam is more than just two people coming together. It is an act of worship, a shield against temptation, and a path that shapes both your dunya and your akhirah. The Prophet ﷺ said, "When a person marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half." Bayhaqi, Shu'ab al-Iman. Why half of the religion? Because marriage protects your chastity, disciplines your desires, and places you in a constant state of responsibility to your spouse, to your family, and ultimately to Allah. But Islam does not present marriage as a burden. It presents it as a gift. Allah describes it beautifully in the Quran. And among His signs is that He created for you spouses from among yourselves, so that you may find tranquility in them. And He placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for the people who reflect. Notice the words tranquility, affection, mercy. Marriage is not built on fleeting emotions or worldly attraction. It is built on divine qualities that Allah plants between two hearts. Think of it this way. A righteous marriage is like a mirror of your faith. If you want a spouse who is patient, gentle, God-fearing, you must also strive to be that, because in the end, your marriage will reflect who you are before Allah. Yet, here is the challenge. We live in a world drowning in distractions, apps, endless choices, and unrealistic standards shaped by movies and social media. It's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. And so, the question remains, how does one find the right spouse in this storm of illusions? The answer is not in chasing the dunya. The answer is in turning your heart fully towards Allah, the one who controls all hearts. Because when you seek Allah first, He sends you the spouse who will lead you closer to Him.
Dua is one of the greatest gifts Allah has given us. It is not a ritual, nor a last resort when all else fails. It is a direct line to the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Allah Himself commands us, and your Lord says, "Call upon me, I will respond to you." Think about that for a moment. The King of Kings, who has no need of us, invites us, his servants, to speak to him, not through intermediaries, not through conditions, but directly. Dua is not simply asking. It is opening your heart, laying bare your fears, your hopes, your secrets, and your desires before the one who already knows them better than you do. When you whisper, he hears. When you cry silently, he understands. When I desired marriage, I didn't chase people's approval or depend on chance encounters. I turned to the one who writes destinies. My sajda became my place of refuge. Every sajda was a confession of my weakness and a declaration of my trust. The Prophet ﷺ said, Dua is worship, timidity. That means every time you raise your hands, every time you speak to Allah from your soul, you are worshiping Him. And worship never returns empty. But here's what I discovered. Dua is not about instant results. It's about transformation. When you keep asking Allah, your heart softens. Your priorities shift. You stop chasing the wrong people and start preparing yourself for the right one. And in that process, Allah not only gives you what you ask for, He gives you what you need, when you need it, in the way that is best for you. So yes, dua brought me closer to my spouse, but more importantly, dua brought me closer to Allah. And that closeness is the real foundation of a blessed marriage.
The secret prayer I discovered was Salat al-Istikharah. It is not just a ritual for uncertain moments. It is the believer's compass when the heart is clouded and the path is unclear. The Prophet ﷺ taught us this priceless gift, saying, If any of you intends to undertake a matter, let him pray 2 units of prayer, other than the obligatory prayers. Then let him say. We often think of guidance as a voice, a sign, or a dream. But Istikharah is not about chasing illusions or waiting for miracles in your sleep. It is about realignment. It is about returning your will to the one whose knowledge has no limits. When you pray Istikharah, you are saying, "O Allah, I don't see what's hidden. I don't know what tomorrow holds. If this choice is good for me in my faith, in my life, and in my afterlife, then open the doors for me. And if it is harmful, then close it gently and guide me towards something better." This prayer taught me something life-changing. Guidance doesn't always mean green lights and smooth roads. Sometimes it means closed doors. Sometimes it means delays. Sometimes it means being pulled away from something you thought was perfect because Allah knew it wasn't. Istikharah became my compass, not because it gave me quick answers, but because it gave me peace. Even when things didn't work out, my heart was calm, knowing that Allah had protected me from what I could not see. And when the right spouse came into my life, it wasn't dramatic. It was simple. Doors opened, conversations flowed with respect, everything aligned naturally, without force. And deep inside, I felt the serenity that only comes when Allah is guiding your steps. That is the secret of Istikharah. It doesn't just lead you to the right person. It leads you to contentment, to acceptance, and to a love story written by the one who never makes mistakes.
Tawakkul, trusting Allah's timing. After making Istikharah, I had to learn one of the hardest lessons, tawakkul, true reliance on Allah. We often say, I trust Allah, but in reality, many of us still cling to control. We want things to happen on our timeline, in the way we imagine. Yet Allah reminds us, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him.
Tawakkul means surrendering the illusion that we control outcomes. It doesn't mean sitting idle, nor does it mean abandoning effort. It means doing your part with sincerity, then handing the results to Allah with a heart at peace. For me, this was difficult. I saw friends getting married earlier, families celebrating, wedding invitations piling up, and I would wonder, why not me? When will it be my turn? Comparison became a silent thief of my contentment. But when I truly embraced tawakkul, everything shifted. I realized that what is written for me will never pass me by, and what passes me by was never mine to begin with. The delays weren't punishments, they were protection. The waiting wasn't wasted time, it was preparation. When I stopped rushing, my heart finally rested. When I stopped measuring my life against others, I discovered the sweetness of trusting Allah's timing. And then, without struggle, without forcing, without chasing, my story began to unfold naturally. The right door opened, and it opened effortlessly, not because I planned it perfectly, but because Allah had decreed it beautifully. That is tawakkul, walking with hope, waiting with patience, and believing with certainty that Allah's plan is always better than your own.
The answer to dua. The truth about dua is this: the answer doesn't always look the way we imagine. Sometimes it comes quickly, sometimes it lingers just out of reach, and sometimes it takes a completely different form than we expected. But one thing is certain: no sincere dua ever goes unanswered. Allah is As-Sami, the all-hearing. He is Al-Mujib, the one who responds. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The supplication of a Muslim will be granted in one of three ways. Either it will be answered immediately, stored for him in the Akhirah, or diverted away from him a calamity equal to it." Ahmad. This means that every tear, every whisper, every plea you make in the silence of the night is recorded and valued. Sometimes Allah gives you exactly what you ask for. Other times, He withholds it not to punish you, but to replace it with something greater, or to protect you from harm you cannot see. And sometimes the reward is saved for the Akhirah, where you will need it most. For me, the answer to my dua was not just in receiving a spouse. It was in receiving the right spouse, someone whose love for Allah was stronger than their love for me. Someone who reminded me to pray when I grew lazy, who lifted me when I felt weak, who made the path to Jannah feel closer. That was the real gift. Not a perfect person, not a fairy tale marriage, but a companion in faith, a partner who loved me through mercy and loved Allah above all else. Looking back, I realized every delay, every rejection, every moment I thought my dua was being ignored was actually Allah moving me away from what was not meant for me and preparing me for what was written for me all along. And when the answer finally came, it wasn't just an answered prayer. It was proof of Allah's mercy, His wisdom, and His perfect timing.
The role of patience and purity. In the waiting period, I discovered something powerful. Marriage is not just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person. And two keys unlock that process: patience and purity. Allah declares in the Quran, "Good women are for good men, and good men are for good women." Quran 24:26. This verse is not a promise of perfection. It's a call to strive. It means that when you purify your heart and your actions, Allah aligns you with someone walking the same path. Patience, or sabr, taught me that not everything worth having rhymes quickly. Every season of waiting had a purpose. It polished my character, It tested my intentions, and it reminded me that love without Allah at its center is just an illusion. Purity, or ifa, reminded me that guarding my eyes, lowering my gaze, and protecting my heart from haram connections was not about deprivation. It was about preservation. It was about saving my best self for the one Allah had written for me. In a world that normalizes instant gratification, choosing patience and purity feels like swimming against the current. But every time you resist temptation for Allah's sake, you are building the foundation of a stronger marriage, because the discipline you show before marriage becomes the trust and faithfulness you carry inside marriage. So, while I waited, I worked on myself. I focused on prayer, on improving my character, on serving my family, on staying close to the Quran. And I trusted that with every small effort I made, Allah was preparing someone who was striving too. And when the time came, I realized the patience was worth it. The purity was worth it. Because what Allah gives in return for sacrifice is always better than what you gave up.
The marriage as a blessing and test. Marriage is not a fairy tale. It is one of Allah's greatest blessings, but it is also a trust, a responsibility that requires constant nurturing. Allah reminds us in the Quran, "And among His signs is that He created for you spouses from among yourselves, so that you may find tranquility in them, and He placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reflect." Notice the words, tranquility, affection, mercy. These are divine gifts, placed by Allah between two hearts. But gifts can be cherished or neglected. Tranquility does not mean the absence of problems. It means finding peace together, even in the midst of life's storms. Marriage is mercy, but mercy requires action. It is choosing kindness when anger feels easier. It is forgiving mistakes just as you hope Allah will forgive yours. It is putting your ego aside for the sake of love and harmony. And marriage is a test. It tests your patience, your humility, and your sincerity. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us, "The best of you are those who were best to their families, and I am the best among you to my family." Tirmidhi. This hadith shows us that your true character is not measured by how you treat strangers, but how you treat your spouse behind closed doors. Yes, marriage can be beautiful, filled with love, laughter, and companionship, but it can also be challenging with disagreements, hardships, and sacrifices. Both sides exist, and both are part of Allah's design. The key is to approach marriage not as a fairy tale to consume, but as an act of worship to maintain. Just as Salah requires consistency and fasting requires discipline, marriage requires continuous effort and continuous dua. Because only when Allah remains at the center of the relationship can love withstand trials, mercy overcome anger, and tranquility return after conflict. Lessons from my journey. Looking back at my journey, there are lessons etched into my heart that I wish I had understood earlier. The first is that dua is powerful, beyond what we imagine. It's not just words we recite, it's a force that shaped destinies. Every time I raised my hands, even when I felt unheard, Allah was already arranging events in my favor. Never underestimate the unseen changes your dua sets in motion. The second lesson is that Istikharah is not superstition. It's not about waiting for a dream or a mystical sign. It is real guidance. It taught me how to let go of my limited vision and trust the one who sees the full picture. It gave me confidence in my choices,
and peace when doors closed, knowing Allah was redirecting me. The third lesson is that tawakkul transforms anxiety into peace. Before, I used to worry endlessly. What if it doesn't happen? What if I'm left behind? But once I placed my trust fully in Allah, the fear melted away. Tawakkul doesn't erase effort. It eases the heart while you strive. The fourth lesson is that patience refines your soul. Waiting wasn't easy, but it shaped me. Every test and delay, every unanswered proposal, every lonely night, it was polishing me, teaching me resilience, and preparing me to value the blessing when it finally arrived. And finally, I learned that the best spouse is the one who brings you closer to Allah. Not the wealthiest, not the most attractive, not the one who matches your worldly checklist, but the one who reminds you of your ultimate purpose. Because a marriage rooted in faith doesn't just last in this world, it blossoms into the next. These are the lessons that I carry with me, and they're the ones I share with you. Seek through dua, trust through istikharah, rest through tawakkul, grow through patience, and choose through deen. That is the recipe for a love story written by Allah.
So if you are waiting, longing, or struggling with marriage, let me remind you of this. Your journey is not a mistake, and your waiting is not wasted. Every delay, every tear, every unanswered proposal is part of a story already written by the Most Merciful. The secret prayer I shared with you is not about bending destiny to your will. It is about aligning your heart with Allah's wisdom. It's about trusting that He knows what you cannot see and that His choice will always surpass yours. Maybe your dua will bring you the spouse you've been yearning for. Maybe it will not, but instead it will grant you patience, resilience, and strength. Maybe it will pull you closer to Jannah, even if it takes you down a path you never expected. But one thing is certain. Allah never ignores a heart that calls on Him sincerely. Every word you whisper, every tear you shed in sujood is collected, cherished, and responded to in ways you may not understand today, but will thank Allah for tomorrow. So never stop making dua. Never stop trusting. And never believe that Allah has forgotten you. Because the one who wrote your story is not distant. He is nearer to you than your own veins. And that was the secret prayer that brought me my spouse.